Ooh.
All right.
Let everybody in.
Connecting. Hey, y'all.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to see all of you. And I'm assuming we're going to have some people kind of coming in and out and stuff, but we're all used to that in the Zoom world. But welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started to make the most of our hour. And welcome to the PCOS Body Liberation panel discussion. And we are so excited to celebrate 1 year of this PCOS Body Liberation support community. And so one of the things that we like just are so happy about is like creating space for support. So we're hoping to share a little bit about that, but also just like, I don't know, just feel the support. So awesome. So first up, Laura and I are going to introduce ourselves. And my name is Julie Duffy Dillon. I'm a dietitian and I specialize in helping people with PCOS to burn their diet books and to reclaim expert role of their body. I have a podcast called Love Food, and I also have a course called the PCOS and Food Peace course. And I'm really excited to be a part of this community. I don't have PCOS, so it feels like a super privilege to be a part of this space. So thank you. And this is my friend Laura Burns. Laura, will you unmute yourself? There you go.
Yeah. I was working on it. Also, I'm going to introduce myself, but I just want to say that Lily, your cat, is so beautiful. But hi, everyone else. My name is Laura Burns, and I am a body liberation yoga teacher. I teach yoga classes. I run courses, events, retreats, all kinds of things, not just about yoga, but about the entire spectrum of body liberation. But really, my whole goal in life is to help people to heal the relationship with their bodies and to find ways to honor and celebrate themselves as they are in each moment, and not wait or put off anything until X, Y, or Z happens, but to live your best life, which is real cheesy, but very true.
I need to make sure I talk with not having mute on. Yeah, we were really excited to connect you all with some people in the PCOS Body Liberation community that they have volunteered to share with us some of their experiences with PCOS and connecting it with body liberation. And so we want to spend the next few minutes introducing the panelists. And so the three of you panelists, I'll let you just decide who wants to go first and introduce yourself and whatever you would like the people here to hear. And is your arm raised? Laura.
Just before we jump into that, I just wanted to say that we're going to have a Q&A section after kind of the main discussion. So if you have a question, go ahead and type it into the chat, and I'll be sure to ask that to everyone. Mm-hmm. Okay, go.
Or I can call names if someone doesn't want to volunteer to go first.
I can go. My dog's not barking right now, so gotta like take advantage of that. I'm Meredith Pishnik, and I don't know what all you want to know from us, but I'm in Durham, North Carolina, and was super excited when I found out about this group, like I think right before it started last year, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna join." Because I had been listening to Julie's podcast and following you and some other folks on Instagram and such. So yeah, I'm 38 now. I have been diagnosed with PCOS since I was I think I was 19. And like most people, it was like a diagnosis, but I got like no help until recently. So the last several years, I've been more into focusing on that specifically and getting information from people who are actually helpful and provide information that's relevant and good for me. So yeah, I don't know. Is that a good, a decent enough introduction?
Lovely. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I can go next. I am Kat Perez. My pronouns are she and her. I live in Jacksonville, Florida with my husband and our 3 dogs. I'm 32 years old. I was diagnosed officially with PCOS when I was 23. Similar to Meredith, it was just kind of brushed off and almost made it seem like it was my fault because of my weight, so that I pretty much asked for PCOS. And I've been a part of the community since it started last year, so I feel very honored. I heard about the community through Laura. I actually took a yoga and body acceptance course last April. It was right on the onset of like working from home and the pandemic. So it was like this much needed space. And while we were in that space, she kind of teased at this PCOS group that was coming. So once it finally came, I was so excited to join. And I'm really, I can't believe it's been a year. I can't believe we're sitting here saying it's been a year, but honestly, this community has done so much for me in this past year that I could have never imagined. So I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to be a part of this discussion.
And that leaves me. I'm another Kat. My name is Kat Macias. I use they pronouns. I live here in Athens, Georgia. And I kind of, well, I'm 29 and was diagnosed with PCOS in my early 20s. I found this community in the middle of COVID when I was like, well, there's a lot of time to reflect and think about how I want to be thinking and caring for my body. And dreaming and hoping that there were spaces like this, and I found one. And it's been really incredible to find a space that really gives health information and community support from a lens that isn't about promoting weight loss and telling you how many walnuts you should eat or what have you. I'm really grateful to have a community that like honors and knows that my body is a good one, and that like I deserve support in thinking well about my wellness and health in a really expansive way. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah, I'm really excited to be with you all today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for introducing. And before we get to some of the panel discussion questions, one thing that we want to share also is even like how this community even started. And I was going to invite Laura to help us with that one, because you are the person who dreamed this and came up with it.
Well, we did that together, my friend.
Well, you were the first one though. Come on.
So, I didn't get diagnosed with PCOS until like 3-ish, 4 years. I don't know what is time. Relatively recently, and I pretty much knew that I had it when I got diagnosed. It was a very similar situation to other people where, oh, you have this. Here's a weight loss surgeon. Oh, you don't want that. Okay, get on this birth control. Come back to me when you want to try to get pregnant. Oh, except you're kind of old, so if you want to do that, you might want to do it now. Like just very like not helpful, and very diet culture, weight loss focused. And I really was floundering. I had done all this work on not being in that space anymore and healing my relationship with my body. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, JK, like getting, overwhelmed with all the stuff that I had worked through, and really was like, trying to grab onto anything. And I found Julie's PCOS Food Piece course, and it was like my little lifesaver that I could grab onto. And it was the first thing that I finally found that gave me some perspective that I could continue the, anti-diet, non-weight loss focused life and live with PCOS and not hate myself. And so some time went by. Julie and I weren't friends or anything, but I like followed her on social media. It's like, oh, Julie's so cool. And also, here's a fun fact. I cannot really say her name easily unless I say Julie Duffy Dillon. And it's funny because everybody calls me Laura Burns. And so I'm like, the universe. I don't know. And so basically I approached Julie and I said, hey, we should do something together, because her work plus the healing world of yoga and embodiment are really powerful separately. And like together, I think they are like an amazing, amazing marriage of like so many things all coming together to create something that's really not out there very much. And so we talked about doing a retreat, and then COVID hit, and it was like, oh, well, we're not going to be doing that for a while. And so it developed and morphed into this online community. And I think the pandemic was going on, and most people were like, do less, do less. And Julie and I were like, we're going to do all the things. And so we made it happen and did like a ton of work to get the community going. But it has been since then like such a kind of magical space. And I always tell everyone, like, I didn't even know that I could dream of a space like this, because all the PCOS spaces that I had tried to access were like, they made me feel terrible. And they took me back to when I hated myself and I had a really messed up relationship with food and my body and everything. And so like, I can't believe it's been a year, but like, and it's also been a year within this pandemic, and like what a healing safe space this has been, like on top of everything else that has been going on. And so, like, I think that we couldn't have launched this at a better time, because it was really helpful in a lot of ways. So sorry, I tend to ramble, so I'm gonna
We'll cut you off then. But
just
that
cut me off.
yeah, no, but that thank you for sharing that. I thought that was an important thing for everyone just to have an awareness of. And let's get to the meat of this panel discussion and start asking some questions. So panelists, are you ready? And just remember, you can pass too if you ever want to. But the first question we have is, oh, and I also want to mention, cliffhanger, before I get to that, everyone who's here also got an email from us with these questions. So you may or may not have had a chance to kind of go through and kind of let these marinate a little bit in your brain. But if you do have any questions for the panelists as you're listening, feel free to put them in the chat and we can get to them at the end if we have time. So the first question is, what does PCOS body liberation mean to you?
Are we going to go in order? Is this what's happening? I'll go. I liked thinking about these questions because I feel like, I don't know, right now I'm just at a point in the last like couple of weeks where this has just been a nice thing to kind of soak in and think about. And I think that it means so many things that like I'm never going to be able to get to in this amount of time. But I think, you know, like the cats have said, that's not what I'm calling you to. I think that it's, you know, the community has been a huge part of it, and the freedom that you find in the people who are kind of on that same journey, I guess, as you know, and not having to, you know, explain specific things or try to explain to someone who hasn't experienced what you might have experienced, even though all of our experiences are really different. There's just so many different ways where we, you know, have been able to connect with folks. But the body liberation piece for me, I think, you know, I was thinking about some words that come to mind, and, you know, obviously like food peace comes up a lot, but also just peace in my body, and not having to love my body all the time, but being able to be in it a bit more, and be more free to experience joy in it without worrying that it's something wrong, or I'm something wrong, or I'm doing it wrong, you know, anything like that. So I think those are huge pieces for me. And then I was also thinking about it in terms of like, you know, so PCOS is rough. Being a fat person is rough in a lot of ways. And I'm also like a cis hetero white lady. So, you know, I'm, you know, there's like, and among other things, like there's a whole lot of privilege that I have and that I experience and have experienced in the world. So for me, the body liberation piece especially is kind of educating myself, becoming aware, and working, and I feel responsible to like work towards, you know, liberation of bodies that aren't like mine as well, in whatever way that could be, whether it's, you know, ability or, you know, size or race or, you know, gender, SES, any, you know, just I feel like there's not body liberation for me without that same, it doesn't work if only one person has it. That's not a thing. So it has to be for everybody. So I think that means that I have a lot of responsibility there. And also there's a lot of like freedom and awesomeness in that. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking because I am also a rambler. I'll mute myself.
That was lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of jump in here. I think at the heart of it for me, kind of like what you shared, Meredith, is that like I think at the base is like all bodies are good bodies deserving of care, and we get to decide what that care looks like. I think that feels like the synopsis of what it feels like and what I, you know, look for in the world as I think about what body liberation looks like largely, and about PCOS. I think inherent to like the current diagnosis criteria of PCOS is the like inherent diversity. Like I don't have like the way that my PCOS shows up, I don't have ovarian cysts, and like even within the diagnosis itself, like there's a lot of variation, as there are like far more variations among everyone who's like a part of the PCOS body liberation community and the people in the world with PCOS. So I think for me, it's really been about just like knowing that like I have a good body, that like others do too, and like what I do to care for my body is good, and like that may look really different from someone else's, but like that we are all deserving of like good education, resources, and access to be able to care for these really incredible bodies that we get to inhabit in ways that like don't dishonor the rest of who we are. I think one of the most incredible things about this community for me has been the fact that like from jump, we acknowledge that like all people, like the PCOS communities in large, often say that like they're sisters or whatever. Like there's a very heavy gendering of this is a women's condition. And for me as like a genderqueer person, it was really incredible to find a space where like we from the beginning acknowledge that like gender shows up really differently, and like people with these parts and these conditions also like aren't always women, and that really made a lot of space for me to like just engage intersectionally as like the full person that I am in this community. So that's a little bit about what it's meant for me.
I guess I'll jump in there. So in a perfect world, you know, PCOS body liberation for me would be, you know, living without judgment, without prejudice because of what my body looks like, because of my diagnosis. And so, you know, for me so personally for body liberation, it's really reaching within myself and feeling that for myself, you know, because I have no control on other people's opinion, but I have control over the opinion of my body and what I'm doing. So being able to connect with those resources and just learning how to advocate for yourself, because like Kat said, you know, we're deserving of care regardless of where we're at or, you know, how our body's changing. And I don't know, it's just, you know, just being able to feel free in the body that I have. I mean, yeah, it looks different from other people's and, you know, just being, I don't know, just kind of, I don't know, the biggest thing for me this last year has just been kind of like curating those things that I do have control over, you know, the things that I see on social media, the conversations that I partake in, and just really advocating for myself. One of the biggest things that's stuck with me the last couple of months with my nutritionist just talking about advocating is that, you know, especially when you're going to the doctors, because when I was diagnosed with PCOS and even to this day, the first thing they want to do is tell me I need to lose weight, I need to do this, I need to do that. So my nutritionist, she was like, you know, you're paying these people for a service. Like, you are paying these doctors. Yeah, you have insurance, but you're paying your insurance. So, I mean, are you gonna like go to, you know, a retail store or a restaurant and let people just talk to you any sort of way? Like, that's where your money is going. And, you know, since then, since her saying that, like, I've really been very picky when it comes to like creating my healthcare team. And because like, yeah, this is, I'm paying your salary. Like, you work for me. Like, so I can just take my business somewhere else. So there's a liberating feeling within that, because you're taking control back. Because all my life, I mean, I was, I hate to say it, but I was prisoner to what everyone else was saying about me. So now I'm liberated, and I'm like, you know what? I know what's best for my body, and I have all these other resources. And if you're not on the same page as me, then I'm just gonna go to someone else. And that's that. I know other people don't have that same privilege, so I do recognize that. I know some people don't have the advantage of going to different doctors, but if you do, then do it, because I mean, you deserve nothing less. So that's how it is for me.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. And one of the other questions we have tonight, I'm kind of jumping around in order because I think it fit really nice, is is there anything about PCOS in particular that makes body liberation different? You know, I think our question was, how does PCOS fit into body liberation? But like, yeah, is there anything that makes it different, more complicated, harder than regular body liberation, you know?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think that well, and just piggybacking off of what both Kat and Kat said, the Kit Kats, maybe? No. That, you know, talking about access to care, I think is a huge thing, and access to adequate care. And the fact that like not even close to enough research has been done around PCOS, and like most providers, no matter what kind of provider they are, don't have enough education around what PCOS is, or at least it doesn't appear that they do, because we don't get the information that's actually helpful to, I mean, you really have to dig for the kinds of information that's helpful to know, to even just know how it works and know what's happening in your body. Like, my world has been rocked over the last couple of years, but especially in the last year of being in this group and hearing more, like getting to, well, one, hearing the experiences of other people, and also like our food piece lessons and things like that, like learning about just technically how all of it works is like, it is bananas that I've had this diagnosis for 20 years and I'm just hearing about all of this. So I think that that's a huge piece of how that can make it really challenging. And that, and just like weight stigma, fat phobia, I mean, and also the gender norms and assumptions piece. I feel like those are three big things that come into play, because we're fighting against these super ingrained things in the world and in society, to try to access the things that we need, and ideas that, you know, most of us, if not, most of us, I'll say, have been told in some way or another, either directly or indirectly, that like PCOS is our fault, and that you know, we've done it to ourselves. We needed to lose weight. You have to follow a certain diet. You're not exercising enough. I hate that word. And so there's that piece as well, but also, you know, so many folks assume it's just about wanting to get pregnant and have babies, and that is certainly a relevant piece and something that I've experienced and I'm currently, you know, in the midst of as well. And it's, yes, that's a huge piece, but also like, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that huge. And also like, that is super not part of some people's world and what they value. So yeah, all of those, I'm rambling again, but all of those pieces just make it super, I think, super extra hard.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Meredith. I mean, there's this really like large bias towards PCOS. And when I joined the community, I was really angry. And I was angry because I was learning so much. And then I felt like, why weren't any doctors telling me any of this? Why wasn't I told about all these different vitamins? Why wasn't I told about, you know, protein, like, you know, just all these different protein sources? I mean, I was pissed off and, you know, so, because before I would be like, oh, you know, it's a lack of knowledge, but honestly, it's ignorance. I mean, the science is out there, the research is out there. It's just, you know, some of these doctors just have this preconceived notion in their head. And so they go in there and it's you that's the problem. They're not offering any sort of remedy that kind of, you know, fits your lifestyle. It's just, no, you need to change this. You did this. And so it does make, you know, PCOS body liberation extremely difficult. And there's just a lack of understanding in general. I mean, I can't talk about PCOS with anyone who doesn't have PCOS. I mean, it's just some, you know, people automatically assume, oh, you know, so you have heavy periods. Oh, you can't have kids. Like, it's just there's just not, I don't know. It's all the information is out there. So I don't know how I wasn't accessing it. I think it's just, you know, the resources that are out there are very fat phobic. They're very blamey. And so it's just the lack of access to the good information makes it difficult.
Yeah, I think one of the big ways that like PCOS makes body liberation, like this slice of body liberation is specific, is like really there's so little known about it. And many of our first encounters with understanding that we have PCOS is in a medical office with doctors who know less than they should. And because they don't have a solution, it's not important, is often what like is communicated to us. It's like, here are some options, you know, what annoys you, let me throw a pill at it, is kind of the approach that I've encountered with doctors, which leaves me, like, I leave that office with no education and like lack of clarity about like how this thing impacts my life. And like only in like this community and through the resources that like this community's allowed me to access, I've been like, oh yeah, this makes sense, because like PCOS impacts so many parts of our lives. And I think I would have never been aware of like, oh, the fatigue and anxiety I feel also related to, like, because it is such a global, like global condition that like, and also invisible. Like, it's both like all encompassing and completely invisible to others. So it's kind of maddening in that way that like this thing impacts all aspects of my life. And even the people closest to me aren't always aware of like what even this thing is. And that juxtaposition is really challenging when I think about like body liberation in general.
God, I just wrote down, they don't have a solution, so they don't think it's important. That is powerful. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I am wondering, is what you are doing right now bringing you toward or away from body liberation?
I can start this off. I'm not gonna lie. It's been very difficult since I've transitioned from work from home quarantine life back into the office. You know, when I was in my at-home bubble, I mean, it was easy to control the things around me. I wasn't seeing people. I mean, I controlled what I got to see on social media. you know, I chose who I wanted to conversate with. But now being back in the office, I mean, you're kind of back into like the diet culture again, and you're back into just like all the weight loss talk. And so I'm human. There's days where I like, you know, some days, I mean, I break down and I'm just like, man, wouldn't my life be easier if I was just this or if I did this? And so honestly, when I have days like that, like places like this, they're very important. I mean, just up until recently, we had, you know, the pods within the PCOS community. And I know when we started last year, Meredith, she was in my original pod, and, you know, our other pod mates, I mean, we still talk to this day. Like, we might not talk all the time, but, you know, there's those days where we're just like, oh my God, this is a bad day. Like, this is a bad day. Like, I need to talk to someone who understands. And it can be any time during the day. One of us will send a text in that group text, and then we're all just like showering with like, yes, like this is going on. Yes, like you got this, you can do this. I mean, honestly, like the sense of community goes so far. So those days where I'm having those, you know, man, it would be easier if I did this, it'd be easier if I did that. I'll go to the Facebook page that we have for the community. I'll just go look on my social media and remind myself of these badasses that I follow. And I'm like, okay, no, I'm a badass. I can do this. Like, let's go. So, yeah.
Hell yes, you're a badass. I agree. Yeah, I think 100%, like this community has been, it's been huge for me this year. And I can't, like, this last year has been rough for everyone, year and a half, I guess, at this point. But like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, ew, like what would it have been if I hadn't had this community to fall back on, and the new relationships from our like OG pod, and we do text all the time, and we were saying, I think some of us were texting the other day, and we're just like, it's just nice to know that I can always shoot a text to that group, and I know I'm not going to be judged. It is a judgment-free zone, and it can be just bitter and horrible, and they will still be nice to me. But yeah, I think like what Kat was saying, I like a lot of what I've done over the last several years, and I think even more so in the past year in like curating my environment, and especially the online environment that I'm in. But also I've realized like I've done a pretty decent job of doing that with my close group of friends. And I think one thing that I've been able to do more and more over the last few years is sort of like, and this is for me specifically as a fat woman, which isn't everybody with PCOS, but it's been really helpful for me to like name that and own that for myself. And that's been part of my journey. And like, just doing that has made me so much more comfortable and able to like to share my experiences a little bit more with people who don't have PCOS or who don't know what that's like. And that's been really nice, because I found that I am really freaking lucky and have some really good friends who have been willing to learn, and a partner who, y'all, it was so precious. He actually came home from work. Was that yesterday? I think it was yesterday. And he's like working on educating his office on health at every size, and like non-diet culture and joyful, because they have, apparently there's a lot of like most people's workplaces, there's a lot of diet stuff going on. But he had asked for more resources, because I had taken the time. I told him it would, I've had a lot of really tough time with a lot of symptoms over the last year that have popped up, that have been, a lot of inflammation, a lot of GI distress, more migraines, 1,000 other things that I'm sure all of you have experienced in one way or another. And one thing I asked him to do, I was like, here are some people to follow. Here are some resources. Here's our community page. Can you please go learn a little bit so I don't have to do it? But and he has done that, and that's been really helpful for me to like to have this group and these resources that we share, not only for myself, but now I'm able to say, you know what, like I will educate you some, and also like here's some information, and can you please do some of that yourself as well. So that's been good as well. And I just started seeing a dietitian for the first time who's actually not a non-diet, who is a non-diet dietitian. And shout out to Kimmy Singh. She's awesome. So seeing, yay for virtual things. I get to see someone who's practicing out of New York. So but that's been really great. And we've only met a few times, but I'm like really excited to actually finally do some of the work with someone who understands, to see how we can address some things like the fatigue and anxiety and all of that stuff. So yeah, stop talking now. Lots of things.
Yeah, I think so much of what this community has really afforded me is like a base and structure to have community support to like continue to build upon. And over the last year, like there are a lot of like bold steps I've made. Like today, I literally, I'd had 2 visits to a gynecologist's office. I did not like the way they treated me. Today, I picked up my records and I'm going elsewhere. Like I feel empowered to find the right care for me. And like, this is becoming a norm in my life because like of this community that I know, is like right there gonna exactly in the chat support me, right? That like this is that I know that I think there's this community at my back, even when it like they're literally not physically in the same space. Like having the access to this community has really empowered me in those ways. And I think about like the way that like body liberation is like connected to all liberation movements. And at my work a lot, we work on there's a heavy intersection with racial justice and disability justice in my job. And I like have been learning so much about disability community and feeling so many connections and resonances with my own experience, being like, oh, fatigue shows up in your life in a particular way, and really feeling the way that making room for PCOS in liberation movements like makes so much room for like other movements too, and like that like, these things are really connected, and it feels really incredible to like feel and see the ways that those things kind of play out in my life, and looking to like make big like moves actually. So like I'm also like negotiating my union contract at my job, and I am so excited and like thinking about what does it mean to like win protections for larger body people in a workplace. And like I am so fortunate to be able to be in a place where I get to advocate for that, and think about what does it mean for me as a large person in the workplace, but also the other people who are going to come after me. And it's really incredible to think both like in the activist organizing spaces and thinking about like cross liberation solidarity. And those are all things that feel really connected to me when I think about what does it mean to like move forward in liberation.
I've been thinking a lot about that too, Kat, and jumping back in because I'm going to talk twice. But I work at a federal agency, and they have an organization. We have like special emphasis and diversity program manager slots, and I'm actually the disability employment program person for my little area. And I thought about that a lot when I'm thinking about like programming, because I have a lot of connections and passions around the disability community in my personal life, but also it has made me think so much about like I've gotten really annoying with them about like, okay, we all need to join forces here and talk about just general body liberation is just really honestly is a huge piece behind all of it. So that's super cool that's what you get to do. That was really awesome to hear. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for weaving in all these different parts to liberation. They're all really important. And yeah, something that we always say is we're not going to let anybody be left behind. We're all gonna help each other. So we have like 1 or 2 minutes left for this last question before we move on to like a different segment. So just, think about it in a concise kind of answer, maybe, if you have it. And if you don't, that's okay. But our last question is, are there resources and people you lean on now that are getting you closer towards liberation or not?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we've all said it. Definitely, this community is one, and definitely just leaning on a lot more resources that are fat positive, that are, just, I don't know, just different. I don't know, but yes. There's definitely a lot of resources out there. I mean, every time we ask the question in the group Facebook, I'm like ready. I'm like, yes, let me scroll through and just list out all these people. I could name a ton, but there are definitely a lot of people out there. And even on our Facebook page for the PCOS Body Liberation, there's tons and tons of people who have been linked and who have been mentioned, and so the resources are out there, and they're amazing.
Is there anyone in particular that pops in your head, Kat, that's like your favorite?
Oh, besides Julie and Laura?
I mean, yeah, but
So definitely in the yoga space, Fringish is a really good one that I like to follow. Their classes are great. I Unlikely Hikers, just because I'm like, hey, I want to do that, or Fat Girls Hiking. And then, there's so many. Of course, now I'm drawing a blank, but I'm sure Meredith or Kat could list a few too.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's funny. Thanks.
Sonia Renee Taylor, The Body Is Not an Apology. Any of that, I mean, those are pretty big, but that's good ones to follow. I just wanted to throw in, I super completely agree with everything that Kat said, per usual. And also, one thing I wanted to add is that while I've been absorbing a lot of good things, I have, over the last little while also been paying attention to places, spaces, and relationships where I am not always getting what I need, or I find them to, I leave time with a certain person feeling like, ugh, that was exhausting. And just taking note of that, and not necessarily, though the option is to if you need to cut some of those things out of your life, that's okay. And, you get to decide what is your safe space and where your boundaries are. And that's part of liberation, right? So, I have found myself curating my life in that way as well, and being conscious of, the kinds of time that I'm willing to spend with certain people, and being mindful of, how that's going to affect me, and being okay with saying no. And that's okay too. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll throw in one more to the list of resources. HACE health sheets are incredible. They're just a really helpful resource across many conditions that intersect with larger bodies. Really helpful. And I'll say that so much about moving toward liberation is about resisting capitalism, and that looks like asking for help sometimes. And recognizing our interdependence, and having a community that you can flex the muscle of what it means to ask for what you need and lean into our interdependence is so crucial. So I find myself doing that by finding literal resources in the internet and in providers, etc. But I also think about that in the when's the last time I called my sister and just asked for her to listen to me while I vented about something? And the ways that I lean on those sorts of relationships in my life and think about how to ask for what I need, which isn't a snazzy Instagram account, but ask for what you need can really be an incredible move to realize that you have something to give, and you also, are willing, you also are deserving of help.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. Such a great discussion. And I know we need to kind of like transition now. If we had some transition music, it would be inserted here, but we don't. And we are going to do the giveaway in a minute or so. But Laura, any questions that we have gathered in the chat? Or I know we had some too that people submitted before.
Yeah, so the question from the chat is just about like kind of, if I don't know anything about the community, like how do I find out more and how do I join? And so just for the record, if you're interested in that, our website is PCOSBodyLiberation.com, and there's a page there that explains more about the community. There's a FAQ with a lot of things that we often hear and some answers for that. And also, if there are like specific questions about the community, can always email us. There's a way to email us from the website, but it's just info@PCOSBodyLiberation.com, or DM us on Instagram. We are very responsive. And so I do have some questions from folks who couldn't be here live, but wanted to throw this out there. So the first one I'm going to ask is, what if I don't have anyone in my life who supports non-diet culture or way of thinking?
Then you're just like me. It's like seriously, like you know, my family loves to ride the diet roller coaster, and I've made peace with like that being their lives, and I get to find another way. So I want to, you know, tell that person that like you're not the only one who's going, you know, a different path than the people in your bubble or community. I think like it's a real exercise in like learning what boundaries to set at the beginning and finding the resources that are going to shore up how you want to care for your body, because you get to make that decision. And you know, at first, like that feels like a real people's commenting on what you ought to be doing is a real grind, and at some point that fades to white noise, and like it's a real process, and you know, we're here for you, and like there's so many resources in the world, and I just want to say that like I am still that person, and like it has been a journey, and I'm so grateful I chose that journey for myself, because like I'm in the healthiest spot that I've ever been in my life, and I'm still a fat person, and I just want to name that for everyone, because like I really feel that question. So thank you, question asker.
Yeah, boundaries are huge. I mean, same thing with Kat. I have all around me. It's, you know, my friends, my family, it's diet, 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 weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. And honestly, like you have to set those boundaries, and these people that are close to you, I mean, they should respect them if they respect you. And at that point, if they don't, then you just got to find yourself, you know, removing yourself from that situation. And then just always remember why you're doing it. Just remember, I mean, I can't think of a happy time in my life while dieting, honestly. You know, so I always think back to, you know, all the different diet fads that I tried. I mean, the stepping on the scale, the tears, they just, you know, just remember why you're doing it, and just, you know, have that respect for yourself and your body to just create those boundaries and just stick up for yourself. And they don't have to understand, but they need to respect your stance on what you're doing for yourself.
Yeah, I think I'm actually in the minority in that I have like a decent amount of friend family in where I live, who I've kind of curated around me, and who are supportive, and also they still don't always understand, right? So that's why I think it's been really helpful. I wasn't able to get to the place where I was before finding sort of like this community and other like online you know, Instagram folks to follow, things like that, and curating that environment as well made a huge difference to me. But also I'll bring it home, you know, like I said earlier, you get to set your boundaries, and you get to make the calls on how you're going to treat your body, and how the kinds of, you know, energy you want to be around, and the kinds of things that situations that you put yourself in. And while that is easier said than done, like I totally get it. And I totally have people in my life that also are super diet focused and all of that. And I'm dreading going back to work because of that. Not, well, I am in some ways because of that. There is a lot of empowerment in knowing that you're making, like Kat was saying, you get to make the call for yourself. But find me, I'll be your friend. Send me a message. I am not even kidding. So because sometimes you just need to hear someone who's like going to support you, and I really do feel like this is a group of people who will, whether or not we know each other well or at all.
Yes.
Just add something that I was just thinking of is one of the big things that I've learned too is just having patience, because while I didn't get to anti-diet overnight, I'm definitely on a different path than a lot of other people. And I have to also recognize that other people might not have access to the same, resources and same accounts that I've followed. And just even with my husband, when I got into intuitive eating, I've been dieting my whole life. So he was still kind of seeing it as another diet. So just having that patience and understanding that, even I might be further along, it might take them a little bit longer to get there, but it didn't happen for me overnight. So that's just one thing I wanted to add.
That's such a great point. We can do all the work that we want, but other people aren't also doing that work. It's going to take them a little longer to get there. That's such a good message. Patience, not my strongest suit, but I try. Okay, speed round. I have one last question. What is your favorite part of the community?
The relationships that I've made with I think, definitely the close relationships that I've made with the few folks that were kind of in an original pod, and but also just knowing that I have that safe space. It's huge. Just knowing that it's there, even if you're not that engaged.
Yeah, the people for sure. And I can always count on there's someone else who can relate to what I'm about to say. So there's that sense of community. I mean, I was talking to Julie on our one-on-one, and I was just like, talking about sex, and I'm like, should I put it out there? Like, should I say something? Like, do I touch these uncharted waters? And I did, and people were like, yes, thank you. I've had this same issue. So it's just, there's always going to be someone who can relate to something that you're going through with PCOS, for sure.
I think the thing I'll add is like the food peace lessons have been monumental to me. Like this is one of the safest places I've learned, it's such an incredible resource to get just the straight education that I need to even understand what this is. And in an environment where I feel really held and supported to be able to not have to be defensive. So many of my doctor's visits, I've had to be on the defense, to really advocate for what I need, which means that I don't actually get to learn in those spaces. But in this community, I get access to those information, and it's in a place that my guard gets to be down, so I actually get to be a learner, and I get to integrate what's really good for me. So I'll just also shout out to those literal tangible resources that make a huge difference for me, in addition to the community itself.
Absolutely. I am always saying, every time I talk to Julie, I learn something new. It's amazing. I mean, what a resource. I'm so glad you brought that one up. Absolutely.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you. So sweet.
All right, Julie.
Are we ready to give away a membership? All right. I wish I had drums.
Give away.
So Jess Fry, you are our big winner. So what should Jess do? Email info@PCOS Body Liberation, and we'll get the ball rolling for you to have your membership. So I'm going to put in
welcome.
Oh, life.
This is so exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The newest member, welcome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Email us. I'm writing. I can't type and talk the same. Email us at info@PCOSBodyLiberation.com. Makes for riveting video. Okay. Congratulations, Jess. We look forward to seeing you in the community.
Yay.
All right. So it's time for us to wrap things up. And, you know, I feel like we need to do something to like put a bow on this and close it out. I don't know if there's anything in particular. Maybe, I don't know, Laura, you have any? You're so you have such beautiful ritual. I think you may be muted or maybe not. Maybe I'm just talking over you.
No, I unmuted myself.
Okay, I was just talking over you. Sorry.
So what if we ended by either saying or typing into the chat something that has come out of this meeting, this event today, and it might be a feeling, a thought, a question, or anything, just something that is coming out and like kind of what you're leaving with. I'm happy to go first if that makes it easier for everybody else. I am taking with me the feeling of, once again, another really nice connection and like always learning from everyone. The end.
I feel like I do often after I've had like an interaction with anybody from this community, either in messaging or on one of these kinds of chats, my cup just feels really filled. I feel like there's like energy and yeah, like you said, Laura, just like that feeling of connection and learning, and yeah, so my cup is full.
I feel, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm feeling just super grateful. With my scheduling, I haven't been able to make it to the monthly mug chats these last few months, and which have really bummed me out. So being here again just reminded me just how much I appreciate this community and everyone in it, and that, even though I'm not on these chats all the time, that there's still someone always there. So I'm feeling so appreciative.
I'm feeling really grounded and self-assured and also like really held in community. Yeah.
Oh, I'm feeling like so many warm fuzzies right now. So that's what I'm going to call it. I just feel the warm fuzzies. So thank you. Oh, well.
Thank you for having us come ramble. In my case, I really appreciate the chance to like chat with everybody and get to share. So thank you.
Thank you, all of you, for bringing your experiences and also, just bringing yourselves and letting Laura and I to be able to be in the space with you as you're going on your journey. So it is a privilege. Thank you.
And Jess, we're really excited to get to know you.
Yeah.
Do you want a mug chat?
So are we going to sign off? Is that
Yeah,
a conclusion for
I think
today?
so.
I guess.
I have my mug, so I will cheers you.
Yeah, me too. I got mine.
Mug. Anyone else?
Mine's in the dishwasher.
Mine is also in the dishwasher, but
I'm grateful they're dishwasher safe.
Once you sign up, Jess, you'll get yours too. Okay. Well, have a good night, everybody. It was so lovely seeing you.
So good to see you all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.